Whenever you're ready.
Hold it 1 second.
Today's date is March 15th, 1997, Saturday at approximately 4:30 p.m. We are in the courtyard of the San Juan Bautista Mission. And first of all, I'd like to ask your name, your full name, and how long you've been in the San Juan Bautista area.
Well, actually, my parents moved here just before I was born in 1947, and my name's KenHolthouse. And, we still live here. All of us do, the whole family. So we're pretty much part of the area.
No, just talk up.
A little louder?
Yeah. Blow Ruben up.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. We've already got the date and so forth, but
Yeah.
I'll ask his name again. Okay, first of all, I'll ask your name. First of all, I'd like to get your name, your full name.
KenHolthouse, and I've lived here ever since I was born. So San Juan Bautista is my home.
What was the mission like prior to the restoration that occurred in the mid-1970s?
Well, there was a lot of work done, I think, when the Ideal Cement Plant came in here in the 30s to try to reinforce some of the walls that had fallen down. But it was, the outer two aisles were totally destroyed, you might say. It was all blocked off. You couldn't go in that area. There were places in the roof that were damaged. The tiles were not all on. So it really needed a lot of work. And it turned out to be a lot of work, too.
Do you recall there being rubble in the side aisles, timbers?
Yeah, there was bricks, piles of bricks and stuff still in there. Because when they came in to do the concrete reinforcing, they were just trying to get it to stay where it was, that what was left. They weren't going to try and fix anything. They just wanted to stay up, more or less. So there was a lot of stuff in the way.
Okay, and I was going to remind you, whenever you respond to a question, kind of
Right.
repeat it. You
Okay,
know, like
put the
in other
question
words,
in it. Gotcha.
when I first saw the mission before the restoration, blah blah blah.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Could we get a view of the mission from the inside? Could you
Go
kind
through
of
the
walk
mission?
us down the center
Yeah.
aisle and tell us
Sure.
what we'd be seeing?
Okay, sure.
Okay, what did the mission look like back prior to the restoration? As you walk through the front door of the mission, what would you likely see?
I think the first thing that everybody noticed when they walked through the mission was the paw prints in the tiles. You know, that was something that was always catch people's eye. But as you came down, you'd see, of course, the pews, which we had to tear out entirely in order to do any of the work. They held church over here at the little teaching center while it was going on. You couldn't really see where any damage was in the main aisle. Everything was closed up. The arches were fully closed up. But you could see that, gee, this doesn't look right. This should have had a hole here or an opening. This isn't the way it was designed to be. But then when you go outside the mission, you could see that they were just trying to get it to stand. And they were, you know, waiting for the day that they could restore it.
What was, as far as you know, what was the motivation for the actual restoration project? That seems like a fairly significant undertaking. What motivated it?
Well, I think everybody here in the community felt that the mission was part of the reason why people came here. You know, maybe one of the main reasons why people ever even visited this town. So I think everybody was interested in keeping the mission alive, whatever it stood for, you know, religious or whatever. But it was something that kept San Juan on the map, and I think everyone wanted to get involved so that San Juan would stay alive. And I know that's why I got involved. I really enjoyed the rodeo that was part of the fundraisers for the restoration at the time. And I think everybody in the town really took part in that, you know. And so it kept people motivated to think that we someday might be able to draw a lot of people to San Juan Bautista, because whenever you said you were from San Juan Bautista, you know, you got a funny look, you know, that, where the heck is that? And then you say, well, it's one of the mission towns. And then, oh, okay.
So what does the mission symbolize to you? I mean, individually, what does it
Well,
represent?
yeah, I think growing up, well, 6th grade was when we all studied the mission, you know, and my sons have all studied the missions in 6th grade. But I think after being in a town, living in a town where there really was a mission, I think it was just part of the culture of California, how California was established, and what preceded the establishment of the state of California. So it really is more history than people realize. You know, even though it's young history, it's not old history like in foreign countries that go way back. We're to the pyramids and so on. We have the missions because before that there was very few structures. These were the first structures in California.
Do you think when you were growing up you tended to take the mission for granted?
Oh yeah, sure. Especially when you talk to somebody else about the missions, and they'd be all enthused about it, And here I was. I lived in the town where we had one, and yeah, I did. I think in a way, working here made me really get more interested in the missions itself.
As far as the restoration project of the mid-1970s, who was involved in the planning process, and who of those people did you actually know and interact with?
I think probably the planning of the restoration was really the undertaking of Harry Downey, who was appointed by the bishop, and he had done the restoration on the Carmel mission, been in charge of it. Actually did some of the work. He was younger then. He was getting older as he came here to San Juan Bautista. But he knew of a contractor in Santa Cruz who was capable of doing something like this, and approached him. The guy was really glad to get the work, and he was willing to hire people who were local to do some of the work. And it worked out real good with somebody like that. He was very knowledgeable, had lots of history about the missions, and had already restored one. So that's a step in the right direction, because we needed a lot of help. I'll tell you, it wasn't something you could just say, okay, that's the way it is. A lot of people sort of went into the planning of how this was going to actually take place.
Any others? Any other?
Well, there were people from town, that wanted to
do you remember any
donate their time. Frank Gallart, he donated most of his time, didn't ask for any money for it, just because he wanted to be part of it. There were people like I'm trying to think of Lester. What his last name was, but Lester helped out, and he ended up working here afterwards, helping out around the garden. So it was a home for him, but I can't remember his last name. But yeah, there were a lot of people that wanted to take part, and some of it was you couldn't have too much of a impact on it at one time. So we had to work with a small crew at certain times, and we could get some people involved, but others we had to say no thanks. Right now we're fine with what we got.
I attended a meeting recently for the Bicentennial Planning Committee, and I overheard Leonard Caetano respond to a comment made by one of the people in the group, and he said that volunteerism is what built San Juan and made it what it is today.
I agree. Volunteerism for San Juan has been something really big. I think a big part of San Juan ever since its existence, of course, but even through the time in the 50s, 60s, when the restoration money was coming in, there were a lot of volunteers that we had to thank after it actually got all done, because that was a job for me, but for them that was something they just gave away, their time and money.
Do you recall Leonard's involvement in the project?
Yeah, Leonard would come by a lot. He'd bring people by that at the time he was in the real estate business, and he'd say, oh, come and look at this, we're fixing up the mission, wouldn't you like to move to this town, and use it for his business too. But yeah, he'd bring people that had never seen the missions and take them through a tour of while we were restoring. He was allowed to come on the site, which a lot of people.
Who was the pastor of the church at the time, and what was the church's role in the restoration?
Yeah, now let me think. It was Monsignor. Let's see, I should know this. He was from Spain, I know that. I'm trying to think.
Rodriguez?
Rodriguez. Monsignor Rodriguez.
It was a trick question.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. I know that he had a lot to do with it. In fact, he was really good about it. It was a big hardship for him to have to move all the pews out of the mission and go over to the teaching center and set up a church and an altar. But he put up with it. And So,
Okay, when you answer,
Yeah,
if
I
we can
gotta
get you to answer the
put the
question,
question
say
in there.
the Monsignor Rodriguez was the pastor at the church at the time of the restoration.